Seriously.
But that's fine, 'cause we got a calendar.
They said that they did have the Jewish holidays, they're missing others. And so then people were saying, well, you're missing these other holidays, which is a valid, so they will be.
That's what our school says. That's what our school is.
So for those who are watching on Zoom and live streaming, we're going to wait a few minutes as we gather here for this presentation of the Sisterhood of Salaam, Shalom. There are still, I see people coming in, so we're going to wait a few minutes. My name is George Smith, and I'll reintroduce myself in a minute, but let's probably take a few more minutes of gathering time. So thank you for your patience.
Laura, we're going to be on this slide for a little while, so if you have something else to show at this point.
Okie dokie, I can do that.
I was just saying I might have to come up with a much more
Welcome.
energetic
You're welcome to come on into the
for our
front
future
part of the
presentations.
sanctuary.
I think oh, oh, actually, that is very possible too. No. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to wait a couple more minutes. Thank you for allowing for this gathering time. It's always important. All right, I think we will get started now. Welcome, everyone. Welcome those who are in person on Zoom, and we're also streaming onto YouTube, so we may have an audience in those three different places. Welcome. My name is George Smith, and I am here in person at St. Mark's Episcopal Church. And St. Mark's is one of the hosts for tonight's presentation. The other host is One Community, and Sonia Irwin, who is the president of the board of One Community, will be up here in just a moment. But I wanted to, first of all, thank our presenters. You'll see them in just a second, Kathy Bender and Samira Qureshi. They are representatives of what's called Sisterhood of Salaam, Shalom. I just want to give a little bit of background about why we are doing this. Our society is at a difficult time. We know that. There are huge divisions between people in so many ways. And we need examples of leadership and hope. And Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom, I think, is providing that in a brilliant and obvious way, and we're going to hear more about that tonight. How groups that are often perceived as enemies and at odds with each other are actually forming relationships and friendships and working through and talking about very difficult topics. That to me is leadership, that to me is hope. So I'm really grateful for you to be here tonight, and the wonderful thing about this is it's being recorded so we can share it with other people who couldn't be with us live. And without further ado, I'd like to ask Sonia Irwin to come and provide a little bit of information about our presenters. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Hello, so I'm Sonia Irwin, president of One Community, which is a local not-for-profit focused on raising awareness, acceptance, and involvement of all our neighbors. So One Community's vision is a society free of prejudice, bias, discrimination, and inequitable treatment, with the goal of building community one relationship at a time. And so from our early days in 2018, Sisterhood of Salaam, Shalom has been a natural and strong partner, given their mission to build trust, respect, and relationships between Muslim and Jewish women and engage in social actions. They work together to build bridges and fight hate, negative stereotyping, and prejudice, changing the world one Muslim and one Jewish woman at a time. It is my pleasure to introduce my dear friend Kathy Bender and Samira Qureshi, the Chicago Regional Coordinators for Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom. Thank you for being here. Samira is a senior legal analyst for a law firm specializing in white-collar criminal defense. She's a member of the Islamic Foundation North Community in Vernon Hills and sits on the board of Bethany House of Hospitality, providing housing and support services to young immigrant women. Samira is the proud mother of 4 children, 3 college-aged, studying engineering, industrial design, and supply chain management, 1 9-year-old elementary schooler, as well as 2 cats. That's impressive. Yeah. Especially the cats. Kathy Bender is a director of client operations for a healthcare revenue cycle company, Sunday school teacher, and interfaith committee member at Congregation Eskaim in Lombard. She is the proud wife of Howard, who founded Schmaltz Deli and is now a food innovator creating halal and kosher products. Her oldest is a third-year rabbinical school student, and youngest is a software engineer. Please welcome Kathy and Samira. Thank you.
Thank you, George and Sonia. Thank you so much for inviting us tonight. Of course, I have been part of One Community, I believe since it started, pretty close. So I'm really proud of that organization and everything that's already been done. And I love participating. So, we're really excited to be here with you. We want to show, how the Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom is walking towards justice in friendship, in support of each other, and in learning from each other to help overcome obstacles in our families, in our neighborhoods, and in our world. I do want to give a disclaimer that this is our first time live again in over a year and a half, so if you'll give us a little grace. But we really appreciate everyone who is on Zoom as well, so thank you for joining us virtually as well. So,
and as an introduction to the Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom, we begin with each of our respective prayers.
there's a lot of emphasis in Judaism. There is a lot of emphasis in Judaism on stopping to recognize special moments. Some do this in the form of a prayer or a blessing for the first time that they're doing something new. I ask each of you to just take a look around and acknowledge each other with gratitude for coming together and recognize the significance of this moment tonight. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehekianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of all. Let us bless the goodness which we have encountered in the world, which has kept us alive and sustained us and brought us to this moment.
And I'll start, and I do this, there are many prayers we can start with in Islam, but we like to do this just to show the similarity between Judaism and Islam, I'll start with a prayer that most every religious scholar or sheikh or imam starts with when they start a sermon or a lecture, and it's a prayer that Moses, or in the Quran, he's mentioned in Arabic, Musa said, the prophet Musa said when he was approaching the Pharaoh the first time. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. My Lord, expand for me my breast with confidence, ease for me my task, and untie the knot from my tongue, that they may understand my speech.
Laura, if you'd like to start the presentation.
So we're going to work on an audio with some static on Zoom. So we're going to just use
Okay.
your mic and you're going to share it back.
We can do that, absolutely.
And we're going to see if we're going to turn this one off. And see if
Okay,
it helps.
I
So
actually
is
heard
okay?
that.
Just remember to hold
Yes,
it
thank you.
close.
Perfect. So I just wanted to point out the picture in this. The Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom has a conference every year. Unfortunately, the last couple of years have been virtual, but this one was in person, and this was at the very, very end. We had 700 Muslim and Jewish women all together, spending a day together of learning and supporting each other, and this was us closing with our prayers, our afternoon prayers, and it was just such a moment that is undescribable. I have goosebumps just talking about it. All right, we can go to the next slide, please.
So now we like to do this. We've done this on Zoom and it's really worked. I hope it works here in person. We like to do these things so they don't sound too much of a presentation, and we like to do a little bit of interaction. So show of hands, actually it's easier in person. Show of hands, how many of you know a Muslim or a Jewish person, whether it's you're Muslim or a doctor, lawyer, teacher, neighbor, child, schoolmate's friend, parent? How many of you know one? Okay, that's awesome. And how many of you, oh yeah, and online. How many of you, oh they did? Okay, awesome. And how many, though, of you now are friends with them? Meeting, and by friend, let's define it. So not Facebook friend, but let's say a friend, someone you've talked to in the past 6 months. Awesome, that's so cool. So maybe not, but usually when we do that question, people sort of put their hands down. And what we're trying to show is that as you're younger, as you get older, it gets harder to meet with people that are outside of your little circle of friendships or work or whatever. And so we don't tend to have diverse friends. And that is why it is important to have a group like the Sisterhood or One Community, any other interfaith or inter-ethnic group where you get to meet people that you might not meet every day.
So as we just, in our introduction, the Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom brings Muslim and Jewish women together. Muslims and Jewish people have multiple things in common. We'll talk about that in the future, but Sisterhood brings us together to build bridges between not only ourselves, but our families and our own communities as well. We understand we will not solve the global issues, but at this micro level, the organization really lays a strong foundation of the work to bring us together, and the ripples that we have already seen are really incredible.
So now in the Sisterhood, how does it actually work in our organization? We tend to meet monthly or every 6 weeks, and our whole thing is changing it at a micro level. So our whole mission is to create relationships with each other that are nourished over time, over food, definitely, and over storytelling. And as we share our food and our stories, we stop seeing each other as only Jewish or only Muslim, and we begin to see each other as sisters, as wives, as daughters, as mothers, friends.
Laura, if you'll show that slide again. Oh, go back one, just for a moment. There we go. Ooh. Almost. That's it. It's fairly easy to hate somebody that you don't know. It's hard to hate somebody that you do know, but it is impossible to hate someone that you care about. And I would like to point out that was at a Midwest regional training, and we actually have the woman on the left joining us via Zoom. So that was one of our favorite pictures to use in all of our presentations. Kathy, thank you. And Laura, you can go to the next slide.
So our vision as Jewish and Muslim women, we come together, we learn how to become comfortable in the uncomfortable, build bridges within our communities, and become better allies to each other. And this photo is of the original founders of the Sisterhood of Salaam, Shalom, and Cheryl Alitsky. And we say this, and we're gonna repeat this, you're gonna hear this over and over again. I feel like a lot of the times people tend to think Muslim and Jewish, that we're at odds at each other. It's a narrative that's been pushed out there, or that it's only, it's pushed in some geopolitical manner, which is not true, right? We've had a relationship for over 1,400 years, and it hasn't always been contentious, which is clearly this group shows.
And the next slide is our mission, the mission of the Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom. We are an international organization now. We have over 170 chapters across North America, so here in the United States and in Canada, and we just started our very first chapter in Berlin, Germany, a year and a half ago. So we're very excited that we are international now. I'm also excited to share that Samira and I have grown the Chicago region. We have 10 chapters in the Chicagoland area. We have actually 4 in the western suburbs. Just in the western suburbs, that's where 4 of them are. And it's really exciting. Those 10 chapters are about 200 women. They're small. We meet in each other's homes, as Samira said earlier, so that you really get to know someone when you walk into their house. You see their family pictures and things that are important to them all around their homes, and sharing food, of course. You know, Muslims and Jews, of course, love food, but who doesn't love food? We all love food. I'm also excited to share that just in the Chicago region, we have 300 community members, people who can't make the commitment to be in a chapter and meet every 6 weeks, but they participate in more public activities. We do some social justice activities, so just programming like this, where we invite others to come and share information about social justice issues, or even just educational as well. So in the Sisterhood, we commit to stand up for one another when hate is aimed at our communities, and we engage in the social action work. We are bound by our shared challenges of preserving our own minority religions among the majority Christian Americans. We learn from obstacles that the Jews overcame when developing institutional presence in America, which are now similar to those facing Muslims. We develop friendships and deep, meaningful relationships in our chapter meetings, in our programs. We do trips as well to learn. You know, the Berlin chapter came out of a trip to Poland and Germany, where a group of 75 sisters went and learned more about the Holocaust. And we had a Muslim educator teach about whose primary studies were about the Holocaust. I wasn't able to attend, but it sounded like it was an amazing situation. We commit to working with individuals and organizations, especially those in our region, devoted to nonviolent means of achieving peace and justice, like one community.
Can we have the next slide, please? Common beliefs. So I said this before, that we share a long relationship, 1,400 years plus, but let's not be, let's sit there and not be like weird. It's an elephant in the room. Whenever we sit there, people go, okay, what about the Israel-Palestine issue? And how do we address, let's face it, there is definitely, even within our own groups, in our own communities, there is Islamophobia and there's anti-Semitism. So how do you address that in this organization? And what we do, though, in the beginning is that we sit there and stress our common beliefs. And I say this a lot because I know we used to do all these talks other places before the pandemic. And I know a lot of Muslims know the common beliefs because we are the younger religion than Judaism. So we understand a lot of the common beliefs, but we're still surprised over the similarities of words and what we believe in.
And I'd like to acknowledge that tonight we're coming together during Eid al-Adha. This is the celebration of the annual pilgrimage commemorating the faithfulness of Abraham in the sacrifice of his son Ishmael.
And our Jewish sisters just celebrated Tu B'Av, the celebration of love, and commemorated Tisha B'Av. It's reflecting on the importance of grieving as we recall the destruction of the first and second temples, along with other tragedies. See, now that's something I would not have known if I hadn't been friends with people. And we have all of these other things that we share in common.
In the Sisterhood of Shalom, we stand together to speak out against attacks in our synagogues and masjids. Our mutual religious values supported our relationship and our unified responses. The very first people that I heard from following the murders, the attacks in Pittsburgh, were my Muslim friends. They were the first ones to reach out to me. And of course, New Zealand, it brings us together. It empowers us to speak up, and just our faith, our buildings of faith, where we come together in faith, being attacked is really heartbreaking, and then to see Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem is really, really painful, to see the Israeli military going in, and along with the settlers going in, while people on these holidays, on these very, very important holidays. It's very painful, and we make these connections together. So we reach out in common humanity. We help stop the hate by coming together for peaceful coexistence. We wish safety and security for everyone, and not only in Judaism and Islam, but in Christianity as well. Peace is a central concept of all of our faiths.
And just if you look at the real quick, I don't want to assume everyone knows all of this, so we're just real quick going to sit there and say that in both Judaism and Islam, we believe in one God. It's the same God. Allah is just Arabic for God. All three religions have a lineage from Abraham. Judaism and Christianity come from Isaac, who is his younger son, and our Prophet Muhammad is a descendant of Ismail. Let's see. Islam is a Semitic religion, and it has a Semitic language, just like Judaism. And I didn't know this. Kathy pointed this out to me. Everyone talks about the Sharia, especially on the news, and not in a very good way, but really it's just a code of conduct. Like when you have organizations all have codes of conduct, Sharia law is basically a code of conduct that Muslims are supposed to abide by. So I did not know, and in Judaism, that they have halakha, which is also a code of conduct. In Islam, we believe in the prophet. We believe he's a prophet, Prophet Jesus, and we believe in the virgin birth. And let's see, Jerusalem is definitely a holy city. And as Kathy said, peace is a central concept. Salam alaikum means peace be upon you. And in Hebrew is shalom aleichem, which means peace be upon you.
We're always surprised. That one, of course, we know it, Sisterhood of Shalom. But the next slide, actually, we're just going to touch really quickly on some common practices as well. So prayers, there's a set number of prayers each day. Muslims have 5 prayers a day. Jews have 3 prayers a day. And we are directed to face Jerusalem. Originally, Muslims were directed to go towards Jerusalem first, and it is now Mecca. Head coverings, of course, you see the kippah, you see the hijab. Circumcision is one of the faith things for both religions. Kosher and halal, as you heard, my husband is very involved in creating both kosher and halal products. And they're very, very similar, but there are some really significant differences. In kosher, there's no shellfish. You're not supposed to eat shellfish. And mixing meat and dairy is kosher, but that is not halal. And let's see, what else is, I think that's it different for that. We have fasting holidays. We have pilgrimage holidays. Again, we just experienced the end of Hajj. And here's another term that is very similar in the two languages. Charity is tzedakah or tzedakah. Justice and ethics are a very huge strong point in both Torah and the Quran. And we have very similar life cycle events. One of the examples that we learned that hadn't really talked about, but when somebody passes, when somebody dies, they are buried in a shroud in both religions. We don't send flowers for a funeral in each of our, it's very interesting, definitely.
And they're buried right away. And I just wanted to say, between halal and kosher, just a quick story. My father came in 1967 in Utah, right? He was doing his master's at Brigham Young. And when he went there was obviously no halal meat store, and he needed meat, so he would go to the kosher butcher to get his meat until he started going to the farm and doing it himself. Oh, it's my turn. Oh, sorry, slide. Can you switch the slide, please? And then one last thing, if we haven't literally drilled it into everyone's minds now, how common we are, but we like this neat Venn diagram just because it does show the three major religions, and it shows where we're different and where we merge. I don't know if anyone can even read that. I can't read that, but at the heart, I'm just going to read what we wrote here. Our three faith traditions share so much in common. At the heart of the Abrahamic religions is the ethical monotheistic vision of one God who is just and merciful and revealed a way of life following these values for the benefit of human society.
And the next slide, very simple one. So we're all here because we did want to talk about our call to action here is building relationships with people who are different from you. It's really, really important to do, and for us anyway, for Muslims and Jews, anti-Muslim and anti-Jewish sentiments continue to grow. Muslim and Jewish women of faith share unique challenges that other faith groups don't experience, and just the benefits of knowing someone who's different. I mean, I don't know that you can say enough about it. There's just so much. The next slide, please. And this is just a bunch of pictures of our chapters being together and celebrating holidays. And uniting together just gives us a voice. And talking about one of the original slides, that it's easy to hate somebody that you don't know, and that it's really impossible to hate someone you love. It is counterproductive to have conversations about difficult topics with someone you do not know or someone you do not like. It's really counterproductive. As we see on social media all the time, you're talking to somebody and you might not even know who that person is. But knowing and loving someone helps facilitate much more effective discussions leading to solutions.
Next slide, please. I think this is why we sort of came here, is to say, well, how do you have difficult discussions? Because we clearly do, right? Originally, the plan, what the Sisterhood says is when you start these chapters that we were talking about before, usually like 11, 12 women that we meet every 6 weeks, we tell and they're two usually chapter leaders, it's a Muslim woman and a Jewish woman, and they're told, don't address the Israel-Palestinian issue right now, right? When you're getting to know one another. Focus more on your similarities as both in your faith and as women. And once that's sort of done, and you sort of start bonding, we call it, it's funny, it says bonded, which sounds weird, but anyways, that basically means that we befriended one another. Then we can sit there and have these conversations. So what we did on the national level and at the regional level is that we did create resources and training materials and gave these to our chapter leaders that they could use when they have these discussions. Now, I'm actually a chapter leader, and what we did in my chapter, because during Ramadan, which is the Muslim month of fasting, and it's one of our holiest months, because we believe the Quran, our holy book, was revealed during that month, the beginning of it. It took 23 years to be revealed. But the revelation began in the month of Ramadan. And there are a couple of the odd nights at the last 10 days are really holy nights. It's considered a very blessed night, and people go to the mosque and they tend to pray there all night. So as Kathy mentioned before, Al-Aqsa, which is a mosque, it's such a sacred mosque for Muslims because it is in Jerusalem, and because Muslims do believe in all of the prophets from Adam, and we believe all the way to Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. We believe that the land that all these prophets have walked on, have prayed on, it is such a sacred land, and it's one of the 3 major mosques Muslims are asked to visit. One is the square, the cube in Mecca, or the Kaaba, where people go for Hajj. The other one is the Prophet's Mosque in Medina, and the third one is Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem, which is sort of hard now. It's been hard for a while. So when worshipers were there during the month of Ramadan, one of the last 10 nights, the Israeli soldiers came and they started pelting within smoke guns, and it was extreme violation of sacred space. And in the chapters started having emails with one another. Some of the sisters were upset why it happened and why nothing was being said. Some of the sisters were upset that why is anything being said? This is something political. We shouldn't sit there and engage in this. So my chapter had a meeting, and we started off by doing improv exercises in the beginning. And we did improv exercises to basically teach everyone how to be effective listeners, right? How do you listen to someone, and how do you communicate with someone? Because it's so easy to just keep talking at people when no one wants to hear. So we did a couple of improv exercises. We talked about teams and how important it is, and we basically said, this is our North Star. Let's sit there and talk as if we're a team and we're trying to get somewhere together. Let's figure out what our trigger words are, which was pretty fascinating in our group. Like certain words were like, identify, and they didn't know them, so they would talk, right? We would say something, and one of the sisters would say, when you say something like, oh, Israel's like this, I become very defensive. But for some strange reason, when you say the Israeli government is like this, I'm okay with that. We were like, okay, well, that's fine, So we said what we needed. When they said something about Palestinians, they were like, Palestinians, or occupied territory or whatever, we would say, listen, this is what we would like to hear. Do you know what, this is what we hear? When you say this is what we hear. And I think we had a very interesting conversation, and we knew no one was going to change our mind. That was not the point, right? The point was just, please listen to this is what I think. I learned a lot that day, and I know some of my Muslim sisters did, and I know some of my Jewish sisters learned something too.
Yeah, I'll talk about that even a little bit more. Because we did then, because we were still in the middle of the pandemic, we brought together just a virtual connection, just some sort of a come here and let's just talk, because we just needed to share our sadness. We needed to share our frustration. But again, the trigger words are definitely something that we taught each other, because when Jewish people generally hear, from land to the sea, Palestinians should be free, Jewish people think that means they want to wipe Israel off the map. And that is not what it means. It means Palestinians should be free. And so just some of those terms were really, really important. And so our call was really, really helpful. I don't want to sugarcoat it. We had people leave because they could not handle the discussions, because we are given so many different perspectives. My news is very different than the news that Samira hears, but not anymore. Because we have made connections, we look at all of the news and all of the perspectives, and we talk with each other. Well, what did you hear about this, and what does this mean? I think the other thing that was really important for us to do is to talk about how are we personally affected by what was going on during this crisis, during this, what were we calling it? We talk a lot about language and making sure that our language is really meaningful and helpful for people to continue to be able to listen. And so we definitely had people who just are so set in their ways and not able to listen right this moment, because Jewish people, the state of Israel means so much to us. It really, really does. But we can't be treating people like the Palestinians and the other people in the occupied territories. It's really, really painful. But the news that many Jewish people get is that the Palestinians started it. And that's not true. We had a conversation too about, at Al-Aqsa, that first night, everyone's like, well, what about Hamas? What about Hamas? Well, Hamas didn't step in until a week later. So why was the Israeli government and the Israeli military stopping people from going into Al-Aqsa? And then why are they shooting smoke bombs and rubber bullets inside the masjid? That's just unacceptable. So, we all have so much emotion and passion around Israel-Palestine, but the violation of that sacred space definitely hit all of us really, really hard.
And I think one thing from that call that really helped, and actually I know Kathy Bromberg's on the Zoom call, so maybe she remembers this, but and I think actually it was her point that she said that I still remember, is that some of the sisters were like, well, Kathy mentioned when the attack on Pittsburgh happened in the synagogue, or New Zealand, we all reached out to one another. But when this happened, no one had reached out to the Muslim sisters. And I think on the call, that virtual call that Kathy was talking about, someone said, I haven't heard anything from my Jewish sisters. Why? And then it was actually Kathy Bromberg who's on the Zoom call, that's why I keep pointing back there. She said, I don't have the words what to say. And and that's, right now, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But at that time, that really meant a lot, because I didn't realize that. And I know there are other Muslims on that call afterwards who did not realize it either, that sometimes you just don't have the words to say and you're silent. Unfortunately, that silence can be misconstrued. And so that was so nice to be able to verbalize that and say, wow, you're also in pain. You're so much in pain that you don't know what to say, right? So that was, at least I got a lot out of that call. Oh, so slide 11, I'm sorry. Next slide, please. And the last one is evaluating our success. How do you evaluate success? According to data, a Sisterhood survey in 2020, almost 2/3 of all women are more committed to protecting the stranger and speaking out against hate. And that doesn't necessarily mean Muslim or Jewish hate. It means Black Lives Matter. It means everything, LGBTQ. It means everything. Jewish women tell 33 others, and Muslim women tell 59 others outside of the sisterhood about the importance of developing relationships between Muslims and Jews. And that, of course, definitely means that those 59 and 33 people that we tell and you tell, they tell others, and they tell others. And as Kathy said, we are not changing foreign policy. However, maybe we are changing some people's minds.
Slide 12, the last one. All right. So, this is a call to action. Please definitely, I think community is such a great opportunity to make connections with other people who may be of different faiths or races or experiences even. women that are really important. So, it is the hope for our future, and we are just so grateful for inviting us here. Thank you so much for hosting this. We just hope that we've helped you see how important it is to have friends that are different and come together for the difficult discussions, because that is how we're going to bring positive change. We need to speak up for each other. So thank you all for coming out here tonight. We really appreciate it. I think Sonia's... I'm sorry?
Would you take questions?
We will absolutely take questions.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the resources.
Oh, absolutely.
What was that?
Resources. If you can read it.
So,
Do you want me to talk about it?
yeah, why don't you do
I'm
that?
gonna do that. Absolutely. Okay, I sent just an extensive spreadsheet of other organizations, especially specific to Muslims and Jewish people and Israel-Palestine. There is so much going on in solidarity together that it may not feel like it or seem like it. The Sisterhood of Salaam, Shalom has created a partnership for an organization called Combatants for Peace. These are both Israeli and Palestinians who have done some sort of violence, but now have recognized that that violence is not the answer, that is not the way to end the crisis in the Middle East in Israel and Palestine. Another amazing organization that is heartbreaking but just so endearing is the Bereaved Family Forum Parent Circle. These are family members who lost children, spouses, parents to the violence in Israel-Palestine. Unbelievable organization. I don't know that you can even read it, because it's just, there's so much information. We included the websites for so many of them. There's some incredible books out there that describe people's personal experiences. And again, that's how you're going to learn and understand really what's happening there in a day-to-day life. There's the Center for Jewish Nonviolence. There's a I could go on and on forever. I am blessed because, as Sonia read in my bio, my oldest is a third-year rabbinical school student. They will become a rabbi in a couple of years, and has lived the last 3 years in Jerusalem, and has spent most of the time in the West Bank in solidarity with the Palestinians, helping them build roads, playgrounds for the children, even just the presence of Jews in the West Bank prevents the home demolitions and some of the other actions that are taking place. Hannah would, every Wednesday morning, would walk out with Palestinian shepherds and their sheep so that they could go allow the sheep to graze and not be attacked by the settlers. Just, it's amazing what is going on. There's so many wonderful things, so I hope you all look up the wonderful things that are going on and support those different organizations. That's helpful.
So if you're willing to take some questions, we have a couple opportunities. One is there are people on Zoom. If you want to ask a question, you could raise your hand, and Laura will unmute you, or you can unmute yourself. Anybody on Zoom want to make a comment or offer a question? All right, well, while they're...
I'll just say real quick, it is an honor and a privilege to be a member of this organization with these two beautiful ladies. They really do a lot for our communities. They're always providing us with opportunities for doing tzedakah or getting together virtually, because of COVID. And I can't say enough about them. So that's all.
Well, that was an endorsement. Questions or endorsements? But are there questions here that anybody would raise your hand? And I'll bring the microphone to you, and you can ask a question. Okay, just a second. Let me bring the microphone to you. Say your name and your question.
Hi, my name is Brad Stein. I applaud you for your efforts in building the camaraderie and the values that you have with your brotherhood and sisterhood in your organization. You're to be commended. My question is, obviously the last 4 years we had a anti-Semitic violence act rate of close to 48%, which is unheard of in the past couple decades, along with the other types of racial violence that we saw, and a lot of the handgun and automatic weapon violence that we saw. In terms of your charter and your goals, is a part of that charter using your collective and, shall I say, your collective effort to try and influence or leverage some form of political power with the existing governments, whether it relates to gun control, whether it relates to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or the other conflicts that exist in the world? Because it sounds to me like as you grow your organization, you're developing a lot more leverage internationally. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, you're absolutely right. And our organization exploded after the 2016 election. That is when our membership truly exploded. And we grew into, we definitely are growing into something now. We are 503CB, whatever that is, organization. So we do not endorse any political, anything like that, but definitely we feel that the importance is to educate people. So in January, we sent a group to the Arizona border to learn more about immigration and the asylum and other things like that. We actually brought in a local immigration attorney recently. Farah Kazi is just a rock star out here, actually all over the world. She's well known all over the world, and explained to us, more about asylum. So I think I can't speak for the full organization, but I think that there is a lot that we do that we encourage people, we pass along information about what is going on so that we can take action, but it allows each of us to decide, what that action is.
Also, I think it's, like Kathy said, we're not a monolithic group, so we do have different members of both political parties, or should I say all political parties. So we actually have been told not to say anything, political, but we definitely, I think we're trying to stay away from the political. But that doesn't mean that a lot of our individual members are not, right? I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. I think, of course, it's a humanitarian crisis that's happening in, we learned about the Uyghur population in China. We continue to learn about all of these things. These are humanitarian crises. Some people, yes, call it political. That's not political. People are being, tortured and murdered and just horrible things, and we must speak out. We must. Our faith traditions tell us that that's what we must do.
Let's see, we've got another question. All right, or here we go.
Yeah, I'm Zakia. I don't live here. I live in Bangladesh, and I am visiting my daughter. So it's my privilege to be present here, and I feel so lucky that I am here during this presentation. And I thank you, the charming ladies, for throwing lights on the relationship between Jewish and Muslim women. That's a long drawn issue, I guess. I am a Muslim myself. And in Bangladesh, almost 85% people are Muslim. So from the very beginning, we are hearing and seeing the atrocities that have been going on. The Palestinian issue is lingering for such a long time. And I had the privilege to work for some time with UNRWA. That was the relief agency responsible for looking after the Palestinians in the West Bank, in Gaza. And we all wish when their life in the tents and the shelter places will coming to an end. And I thank you so much for this initiative that you have taken to build a bridge between the Muslims and the Jewish people. Because there was so much antagonism previously, as far as my knowledge goes. And I wish for the day when it be all peace and calmness there, because the picture shows the children's are hurt and there are so many unfortunate incidents. So it's really, really a very great initiative on your behalf to work on the field of bringing good relationship between the Muslims and the Jewish people, and I wish you all success. I am very pleased to know about these activities that you are carrying forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sister. And thank you for your daughter.
Thank you. Please pray for her.
Yes.
So these are beautiful commentaries and also questions. Going back to Zoom, did anybody there want to say a word or a comment or a question? Going back to, you had some more time to think about it. No pressure. Yes, okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I had such an aha moment with that very first slide about hating people. It's so easy to hate people you don't know. And I just think about relationships over the years or disagreements over the years and how that one aha moment could have changed a lot of conversations.
Thank you, yes.
Do you want to say something about that?
No, that's a great observation.
They love it.
We
Right.
agree.
Yeah.
Oh, another one?
Go ahead. Was somebody on Zoom raising
Yeah,
their?
Diane was.
Telling me, I just was grateful that you brought up the truly articles, the cases that are so important. The Palestinian-Israeli division has got to be an incredible thing to deal with it, and the frustrations and the hate that exist, that and the wonderful ways you're approaching it. I'm glad that you brought that up. I think we need to all be more aware of it and more knowledgeable about it. Thank you very much for that.
So now I'm back at the pulpit. Any other comments? This is so nice to, there's not a lot of pressure, which feels good.
Yes. Thank you for making this a good transition.
Yeah. Yes, just a second. I'm going to bring the microphone to Beth. Hold on.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Beth. I have taken some classes at the College of DuPage, given by a former Muslim who lived in Egypt. He was a member of the Brotherhood when he was an older teenager. And he gave us an insight on the relationship between, some of you may have taken his classes. I'm sorry, I do not remember his name. It was just a couple of years ago. He's given us relationships between Christians and Muslims, how they are the same and yet different. And he's also given us a very scary explanation of Muslim coming from back when it started. And I do not see that happen, that same attitude in the United States. I don't see it in how you are expressing your faith. So that's a question I would like to have clarified. Where is the truth? Is the truth in whoever you meet? is the truth in the churches or the groups of people that you live with? Because I heard that there are very hateful groups of Muslims that meet in certain areas of this country that are very politicized and want to destroy Israel. And that concerns me because I realize that what you're doing is building a relationship. You're presenting yourself as two human beings that love each other and two groups of human beings that can love each other as well. So I need to be educated more on how to look at the Muslims, because I didn't know where the truth was.
Well, do you want to comment, and we'll come back to the Imam. Do you want to say something first? Okay, Imam.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be on you. My name is Muhammad Zafarullah. I am the Imam of Ahmadiyya Muslim community, which is in Galen Allen. We have the mosque. You know, this issue about the Christianity, Jews, Muslim, in Quran, God says, Ta'ala ila kalimatin sawaim bainana wa bainakum. That if you want to discuss something, you have to come together to one point. One point is common for these three religions. That is the unity of God, one God. Jews believe, Christian believe, and the Muslims believe. There is no doubt. Then there is a lot of differences, and if you are going to there, I have to stand my own point of view. Jews have their own point of view. Christian, they have the point. But if when we are going to talk their belief, then there will be hate will come up. But God says, as a Muslim, we have to go to the common point, and then we can love. What is happening in the world, that is not the religion. They use the religion for their personal interest. That is happening. It is happening in America, it is happening in Pakistan, it is happening in Israel, it is happening in Bangladesh, it is happening in India. So always people use the religion as a tool for their personal benefit. And when they use the religion, then hatred come up. Otherwise, Islam don't teach to kill anybody. Islam also teaches us to love. Jews also do not, their teaching is not that the Prophet Moses, we believe Prophet Moses was sent by God. We believe Prophet Muhammad was sent by God. We believe that Jesus also, but we do not believe the Son of God. Christians don't believe Prophet Muhammad. Muslims don't believe Prophet Muhammad, but we do not say them that they must believe. That is their own point of view, but we have to respect each other. But when their personal interests are come, they always use what is happening in Israel. That is the personal use, and they use it as Islam. Islam does not teach that one. But when they kill, when they create that kind of hatred, that is wrong. Even America, right now, what is happening here? They use the religion just to get their own benefit. That we don't like that one. That religion is personal matter between you and your God. Keep it separate from that in country, wherever you live. That is your personal matter. But when you are going to use in political world about the religion, then hatred must come on.
Well, we could have another presentation on what is truth. But I do appreciate the Imam's statement about people using religion, and that is something important to take into account. Using religion versus practicing a religion and participating in a religion. So I think that's one of the guides for truth. Anyway, yes.
Oh, we're good on time. So just to continue, if I understood the question, and I guess the Imam said it, and everyone here, what is the truth? I don't know if it was the truth was the question. I think you were trying to, Was the question, who should you believe and how Muslims are? Is that what the question was? In terms of the actual message, or are you talking about how Muslims are? Because there's Islam, the message, which I believe the Imam was speaking to, and what the father was speaking to. There's a message, and of course, and then are you speaking about like, are Muslims, should you believe that Muslims are good, or should you believe Muslims are bad? Is that the question? And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, I'm just trying to understand your question. Oh, so the majority of Muslims think exactly what the Imam was saying, that Islam is the religion of peace. We believe in, we have our own relationship with God. We practice how we're supposed to practice, and we let other people believe what they want to believe. You know, Islam was in India for over 200 years. Hinduism is still a thriving religion in India, right? I mean, I'm just saying, like, I know there's this narrative out there of, you know, spreading by the sword and how it was oppressive and stuff, but I mean, honestly, historically, I'm a student of history. If you look at history, and I'm not trying to, if you look at it, Muslims were all over the world. We're all up into Spain. We were there. We are not there anymore. You know, the Crusades happened, right? We were in India, we're in the Hindus, and in Africa, and a lot of the native religions are still thriving there, because according to Islam, and even according to Sharia, it's you let them believe what they believe. There is no forcing. There's an ayah in the Quran. There's no compulsion in religion. That's so. If you're asking where is the truth, or how do the majority of Muslims believe, the majority of Muslims will. If they read and understand our Quran, that is what we believe, that there is no forcing in religion. My faith is my faith, your faith is yours. Yes, if you're going to come attack me, then, you know, we're going to sit there and stand our ground, which I hope everyone does. But that's what I would suggest, I would say. And then again, like when you're saying what is the truth, it's exactly what me and Kathy said in the beginning. This is why the sisterhood is so nice, is that my honest to God advice would be, I guess, go make some friends with other Muslims, and then you can sit there and see, like, don't just take my word for it, or the Imam's word for it, or Sonia's mom's word for it. Just sit there and like befriend, like talk to them and see, and then there'll be so many things. And I heard somewhere from Reza Aslan, who spoke something, I loved what he said, and he was talking about, because he used to be Christian and now he's Muslim, and he was just like, you know, whatever you take out of a holy book, it's how you read. So if you're a violent person, when you read a book, that's all you're going to see is violence. Or if you're a loving person, that's all you're going to see is love. So a lot of it sometimes is, who is the person? I don't think, who is the person who is interpreting whatever they're reading, right? It's so, that's what I would say. Yeah, that's right. And we're not a monolith, right? They're different types. There are different types of Jewish people, Muslim people, and Christian people.
Yeah, just to bounce off of Samira's, my recommendation for you from a practical standpoint to get what you're looking for, if you belong to a religious community or, you know, any community that you can welcome in reach out to the Ahmadiyya community, a local masjid, and maybe from the Sisterhood group, if you have a women's group or something, or some other way, do something together regularly. You know, don't just have one meeting, do something a little more regularly and build the relationship. And I think that is definitely the perfect point of exactly why we're all here, because it is about those relationships. And, you know, there's extremists in every religion, every community, and we fight against it. I mean, that's why we come together, so we know the difference. Thank you for your question. Yes.
Well, we're nearing the end of our time, and I think maybe one of the great things is that the path to truth is through relationships. Could we say that? So I appreciate that so much. We're going to go, we could have a few more minutes if there are any other questions or comments. Okay, is that all right? Here we go. Just a second.
Okay, thanks for your patience. One question I want to ask in the spirit of what we've just been talking about is the conflict over in the Middle East has been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. And every day we see the news and we see the total number of innocent women and children that are, and men also, that are killed on a daily basis because of these religious and ideological differences. I'd like to ask this side of the aisle, if I could, because you've brought up some really interesting points. Do you think in our lifetime that we're ever going to see any type of resolution or compromise with this conflict, that we don't see the deaths of these numbers of people, and actually both sides are living in harmony together? Am I being an idealist, or do you think that it is potentially feasible, and what will it take to achieve that?
Who wants that question?
If you are asking the religious solution that is different, and the political solution is different. Religious solution is, these three religions, Jews, Christian, and the Muslim. They believe Prophet Moses, and they say that according to us, according to Muslim, that it is mentioned in the Bible that the God of the Israelites. And also the Christianity Bible also, Jesus also used the God of the Israelites. And he said that I have been sent to the 12 tribes of the Israelites. Moses also was sent as a prophet to Israelites. They do not preach other people. They say that we are the Jews are not, they are not going to preach and convert anybody. The Jew, Christian, according to me, what I understand in the Bible say that I have been sent to 12 tribes of Israel. When Prophet Muhammad came, he made this announcement that I have been sent to hold the mankind, and I have completed this law. In the Bible, they say that Holy Spirit is going to come and he will say you, and according to my interpretation, we say that Jesus said that someone is going to come and to complete that. So Muslims say that the Prophet Muhammad came and he brought that Sharia law, which is the Quran, and has completed. Now there is also other things. Christian Jews also waiting for Messiah. And there is a wailing wall there in that area which they go and cry and they say that Messiah is going to come. So when this Messiah Jesus came, they said, no, you are not the Messiah. They put on the cross. Now the Christian belief is that Jesus died for their sin. That is their own point of view. Whatever, I have to respect them. Whatever they have there. So they put him on the cross, and from there, this hatred between the Christian and the Jews. And when Prophet Muhammad came, he also said in the later days that Jesus is alive and going to come back. And now they are waiting for that Messiah. They are waiting for that Imam Mahdi, that guided one, is going to come and establish that peace in the world. Christians are also waiting for Jesus, that he is going to come and establish that peace. That is the difference. Jews are also waiting for that Messiah, and that wailing wall, they go and cry, and they say that Messiah come, that all our difficulty to be removed. Christians also believe that Messiah is going to come. Muslims also believe to Messiah. Now, if you ask me, my belief is that Messiah has come. That is the different point. You accept or not, that doesn't matter. But according to me, Ahmadiyya Muslim communities say that the signs which you are waiting, that Messiah bring the peace, peace is not going to come from outside. Peace is when you are going to accept that teaching of any messenger of God, Almighty Allah, there is always peace. But whenever the personal interest comes, then the conflict starts. We always emphasize religion is between you and your God. Practice it and become a good person. But when this religion is going to be used for their political or other reason, then there is a problem. Then there is no peace.
Hi. So your first question beforehand, I love, because people always talk about like religion causing conflict. They always talk about the Middle East, but it's definitely, I would argue that the Ku Klux Klan was a religious organization and caused a lot of conflict in this country and all over the world, quite honestly, and people blame it. But we just went over, we just all experienced 4 years of, in my opinion, wacko land here. But a lot of it, yeah, so, but it's interesting, as a student of political science, you sit there and you see, well, a lot of people use religion or nationalism or race to legitimize their power, right? So it's literally just a tool. So sometimes I sort of get offended when people ask about religion and how it's the cause. I don't think it's the cause of violence. I think it's a tool that people use. And that was my point before too, that you can be a loving person and read something. You know, someone said this, that you can read, it was Reza Aslan who said it, that you can take the Bible and you can take verses that say, yes, slavery is good and slavery is part of your religion, and you can use those same verses and say, no, slavery is not in your religion. It depends on how you're using it, right? So that's what I would say. So in terms of, like the Imam said, politics and religion, they're two different things, but I would think, to me, the bigger evil is the politics, and I think the religion, unfortunately, is being used, in my opinion. So that's why I think religion should be out of politics.
Well, thank you. We got deep there. I think, though, that if we don't believe peace is possible, it will never be possible, right? We have to, I think to your question, we have to believe that it is possible, and then it will happen. But if we just throw up our hands and say it'll never come, then that will push it out farther. But I think there will be peace eventually, because it's what we're destined for. But do you want to say, oh, okay, here we go.
Just a little comment. In the middle of all the the most recent conflict with the bombing and shelling and all of that, I went on a walk and I decided to wear this t-shirt I have from J Street. You probably know J Street. And the shirt says, peace is possible in English, and then it says the same thing in Arabic, and it says the same thing in Hebrew. So I went to the Dunkin' Donuts, and I took a walk, and I went to the Dunkin' Donuts, and they were closed, so I had to walk through the drive-thru, and I got my breakfast sandwich, and I was sitting at the little table outside, which I was going to eat inside. It was kind of chilly, but anyway, a young man came up to throw away his trash, and he said something to me which I didn't understand, and it was Arabic. And I said, I'm sorry, what? And he said the same thing again, and then he pointed at me and he said, your shirt. And I said, oh. He said, I am Palestinian. And I said, well, we pray for peace. And he said, yes, we pray for peace. And it was like a thumbs up, and I thought, this was one of those little God moments where I just happened to wear it, thinking if I see someone, I have a little message of peace, So I just wanted to share that with you. I felt like that was a fortunate encounter.
That is the Islamic point of view. When you greet each other, say Assalamu alaikum, peace be on you. That is the first thing. And religion, Islam also is the peace. So we try ourselves, but peace is possible. Even peace in the family also, there is not religion, but when wife and husband happen, there is not a religion. That is the personal things involved. So peace needs sacrifice. You have to sacrifice your right. then peace will come. If you say I am right and I have to get my right, then peace will not come. You have to sacrifice your right and then peace will come.
Well, Samira and Kathy and everyone here in person and on Zoom.
We
And
actually have one more comment on Zoom.
oh, we have a comment.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Hi, Assalamu alaikum. My name's Lindsay, and I just wanted to thank you both so very much. I wish I could be there in person, but I'm getting over a minor cold. I just wanted to say that I think part of the reason religion can be associated with violence is because I'm trying to say this the best way. I think the reason religion can be manipulated to spur people to violence is because when people are suffering and when they don't have what they need and when they're manipulated by fear and anger because they're either brought down by oppression and terror, or they're in a position of losing. Religion draws on passion and our deepest beliefs and our deepest longings. And that's why it's so important to channel those passions in a way of compassion, to channel those passions, to see the beauty and the love and the human and in one another. And the best way to do that is to come together in friendship, and especially in interfaith friendship, and listen, because people can wield certain verses to say that the world can only be better if everyone believes as we believe. That's the only way to make that possible. But there's a deeper aspect of faith that all religions really do call us to, and that's to see that the same wonderful, loving God loves us all, that we're all God's children, and that God wants God's children to get along. God doesn't want sibling rivalry among God's children, and that's a phrase I'm using. That's not the most Islamic phrase, because children of God is not an Islamic saying, but one God of all wants God's creation to love each other, because God made us in love. And it's easy to manipulate the strong passions that we have for justice towards a violent end to meet justice. And I mean, the American military draws on that all the time. So, religion isn't the only tool that people don't just manipulate religion towards violent ends. They manipulate patriotism towards violent ends. They manipulate anything that makes you feel like you belong in a group to either exclude or force others to join you. But this kind of interfaith meeting is seeing the humanity and the love beyond the divisions that are significant, but don't have to be barriers. Because there is one God who loves us all, we can all love each other. And at the very heart of it, I think the major Abraham religions all say that. And I think what you have shown is that you've shown that in action. And I'm just so thankful for the hope that you've given us to see that in action so beautifully. So thank you.
Yes, that you need to write their next presentation, Lindsay. That's what Kathy said. Okay, well,
thank you.
Well, we are going to come to an end tonight, but that doesn't mean that what we have learned and experienced doesn't go on, because it will. And so we hope that there may be more of these, and we look forward to that. And thank you so much for your continuing work and relationships, and for all the questions and great gathering we had tonight. So thank you so much. And let's give the Sisterhood an applause.